This park is located in the more populated part of Anchorage, which is why I came out here. I just wanted to get a good sample of how he behaves with all of these different variables. He cannot be doing that when he sees dogs. He wants to go up to every dog he sees. He seems like one of those. Leash pulling is the worst. He is a wild animal, this dog. This is Chop, a wild Alaskan street dog with minimal human contact. His manners leave a lot to be desired. We are in Alaska to get this man ready for his new life, if we can survive it. This is Reality Dog Training. Subscribe and click the bell so you never miss an episode. In episode 1, you met Chop, the wild Alaska dog, for the first time. And he's been with me just over 24 hours now. I'm incredibly excited about today because it's my very first day of training with him. There were some ups and downs yesterday, and it is time to start teaching him, so we may as well start with teaching him sit, because he doesn't even know that, if you can believe it. Constantly on my mind is that I have never worked with a dog with this particular background. So I think this is going to be interesting for all of us. So nothing really special here in the way that I'm teaching him to sit. I'm just going to lure him into position. Usually this method is pretty effective, particularly with larger dogs. But honestly, I'm having kind of a tough time with Chop here because he just wants to keep backing up instead of kind of plopping into a sit. That's okay though. We're going to keep working on it and we'll adjust our approach for him. So I'm just looking for his butt to go down. Yes, just because his legs bent ever so slightly there is why I said yes. The fact that he's just following his treat really well there is good. Yes! Did you see that? Did you see how his butt like went an inch or two? I'm using his meal this morning instead of regular treats because I want to be able to reward him so much today because we have a lot to teach in a short period of time. Yes! This is definitely a sign that he's had very limited interactions with humans. Yes, I like how he's spinning there. That's pretty cool. That gives me an idea for later. So over the course of these first few lessons, I expect Chop to start learning what the word yes means. I'm gonna be using the word yes to mark behaviors that I like that Chop does. And every time I say yes, I'm gonna follow it up with something that he values in that particular moment. See how he's tuning out there? I'm gonna let him check out too and come back as he pleases. Good boy. I'm gonna reward him for coming back to me there. Yes. For a dog that's never sat for a human before, it definitely looks like he's catching on quickly. I'm encouraged by this. I'm hoping this is gonna be a good sign that he'll be controllable when we go out in public later today. Hey, come on. So I'm gonna try and shrink my training bubble and see if that helps. Yes. Let me see if we can get some momentum. Yes. Okay, that's his first sit lesson. He still doesn't completely understand the concept, and I don't want to push him too much because, like I said, there's a lot I want to cover with him today. It looks like this Bark Eats is very effective so far in terms of motivating him. Bark, one of my favorite companies, has just come out with a very new innovative dog food. So they use a new technology to coat this food with live probiotics, which have a number of health benefits for dogs. So he's getting healthier as I train him. They deliver pre-portioned packets to your door every month that's actually personalized and portioned for your dog by real veterinary nutritionists. Everything Bark does is always super high quality, and this food is no exception. If you want to give it a try, you'll get 60% off your first order using my special link, barkeats.com/ZachGeorge. I'll have details in the description. So rather than trying to teach him one thing at a time and get everything perfect before moving on to the next, I find it really practical to teach them a little bit of each thing as we move on to keep them super simple. So the next thing I want to teach him is how to look at me, how to leave something alone, and how to understand his name. And the thing that all of those have in common is that they're ways to get attention onto me, particularly when he becomes distracted in public. So I'm doing my best to try to lay the best foundation I can before having him organically encounter exciting things so that at least he has some history of communicating with me. Holding up a treat right up here. Yes. When I have eye contact, I'm gonna say yes and give him a treat. Yes. He followed my finger right up to my eyes. Look at that. Let's see. Yes. Now I'm actually not even using a treat. He's following my hand so quickly because of some of the prior lure training we did. Do you see how one thing builds on another? It's a dangerous, risky attitude to be like, well, I just want to train my dog X, Y, or Z, but don't really want to train them their general basics overall. So look at me is looking good. I'm gonna start saying here to mean look at me. So in general, I like to use the word here to just request his overall attention in a variety of contexts. It's not exactly look at me in this case because I'm more after attention more so than proper eye contact. So while I agree this is a bit of an abstract definition, here can be a great way to encourage your dog to pay attention to you. Here, yes. Keeping the treats nice and random. Some of it's his meals, some of it is bark treats. He's following that signal great, and no treats here. So in other words, I want him here, yes. Then I'm gonna get the treat. See that? So that really gets him paying attention to the signal. Or I might want him just to reply or understand the verbal. So let's put my hands behind my back this time and I'll say, here. Yes. Let's see, I don't know if he really registered that, but let's see. Waiting for him to look right into my eyes, to come back to me and to look up at me. And I'm gonna say here without a hand signal this time. Here. Yes. There we go. So, being a little extra patient. Here. Yes. I'm loving Chop's overall body language right now. You can see he's not even on leash or anything, and I love how he's voluntarily staying near me and interacting with me so enthusiastically. This is a great way to build trust. He really seems to be enjoying this lesson, which is going to be vital to my future training with him. He's got to love working with me. Here. Yes. All right, good. So I feel like he's starting to understand the concept of here. This is going to become more evident when we're doing things like leash training and training in public where I go to get his attention, but we'll see how that goes later on. I feel confident he's starting to get the concept here. But I also want him to know that his name means he's going to get something great as well. Let's do a variation of the game we did yesterday, right? We threw the treat. He's going to go and get it. And he looks up at me. Chop. Come. Yes. Very good. So chop and come are kind of synonymous for our purposes, at least right now. You know, there may be a time when I want chop to mean pay attention up here or whatever, but right now, I think as a default, when he hears his name, I want him approaching me. Chop. Good. Chop. And so as he follows me, chop. Chop. Yes. Good man. You can see chop is just another word we can use to get his attention in different contexts. So I'm gonna throw some treats out there, let him chase it. So essentially, I mean, he hears chop, he thinks, oh, I get a treat. And over time, we're gonna phase that in to mean, hey, chop, pay attention to me. Or chop, come here, or whatever. Chop. Yes. Okay, now we need to give him his first impulse control training session, which is everything in dog training. If you ever want to teach your dog how to not do something that they want to do, but you'd prefer they not do it, then they have to know this next exercise. This whole session you've been seeing, when I put the piece of food in front of him, he goes and he takes it, right? I mean, every time he does it. But I want to teach him how to only take that treat with permission. Watch how easy this is to train. Just gonna close my hand. When he gives up on it, right? What am I gonna say? I'm gonna say the magic word, Y-E-S. Yes. And then I'm gonna reveal it because he was being less, no, that's my finger. I wanna verify that he has it within him to lay off the treat when he clearly wants to get it. Yes. There we go. Yes. So I'm looking for that microsecond where he's actually not even going for it. Yes, you see that? Now let's see if he, with my hand closed still. I do cover how to teach all of this in both of my books as well. I'm gonna have links below to those. You can also get it in audio form too. Yes, see that? This is so much more than just teaching him to leave a treat alone. This is just one of the easiest versions that I can think of him leaving alone something that he really wants. So that's why I start here. In the future, this foundation of self-control will theoretically help us teach him to leave much more enticing things alone, like other dogs on a walk, but I have a feeling that we have a lot of work to do to get to that point though. Instead of keeping my hand closed now, I'm going to present the treat to him directly and see if I can catch him succeeding for just a moment. Yes. Yes. I put that treat right in front of him. You could see in his eyes the restraint he was using. Yes. I'm looking for that restraint. When he goes for it and when I pull away, he's like, whoa, I didn't mean to do that. I want to keep it near. Yes. So I'm looking for that 1 second of restraint. Let's put him back here. Here we go. And look, see, here's another way to lure him. I'm trying to get him in a nice position for the camera, and that's coming in quite handy. And look at this right in front of him. Yes, good. Now let's just introduce the word to him now that he's starting to understand the concept. Leave it. Yes. Good, I like how he glanced at me. When a dog offers you their attention with a treat right in front of them like that, as if to say, hey, am I doing the right thing? That's a good sign that we are really starting to connect with each other. It's amazing what a training exercise as simple as this can evolve into over the next several weeks. This right here is a magical moment for Chop. I mean, here we have a dog who's grown up on the streets, basically in the wilderness. And in this moment, I really feel like I'm starting to see that shift in his expression, that depth of his intelligence. When I first met him, we were completely detached, and now I'm starting to see that glimmer of mutual communication starting to happen. It's like he's wondering, am I a dog or something? Why is this guy over here so interested in communicating with me? I love sharing these very special, hard to catch moments on camera with you guys, because these are the moments that we look for to see our dog truly beginning to break through. Leave it. Yes. Good man. All right, so leave it's looking good. Now that he's leaving it alone while it's in my hand, let's see what happens when I drop it. Leave it. Whenever we change a variable when teaching our dogs, it's bound to confuse them the vast majority of the time. So while I'm still teaching him leave it overall, in the first instance, my hand was closed. Then it was open with the treat exposed, and now I'm dropping it. That's 3 variable changes. And all 3 of those versions required him to use his logic a little bit different each time. And it doesn't just stop here. This trend is going to continue throughout his training. After all, seeing a dog at the park might prove to be a lot more exciting than a piece of kibble in front of him in my living room. Just a hunch. So let's make it a little bit easier by setting it down, covering it up. Yes, good man. Did you see how he's like, what do I have to do? Chop. Here. Yes. Did you see how he instantly looked up? Yep. I was able to get his attention off there. I want to really reward that. I want to keep that going. I'm trying to really get into this groove where I can drop a treat in front of him and then get his attention on me. Yes. Here. Yes. It's just a good way to play hot or cold with your dog. So leave it. Here. Yes. For added measure, I'm going to see if I can guide him away from that kibble sitting on the floor with another kibble. Good, yes. Let's come. Putting motion to it definitely makes it harder, but I'm really trying to get him to think. Here. Yes, okay, pretty good lesson for now. Still a long ways to go, but I feel much better knowing that he's starting to learn this concept of leave something alone, pay attention to me, come when called, sit. I mean, all of that pretty quickly here, but not very polished at all. But a good start, I'm encouraged. It's one thing to be in here, but the second I step out there, I'm stepping into a bear preserve. There are bears in our driveway all of the time. This is one of the most hazardous environments that I've ever trained a dog in. Why can't anything be normal in Alaska? The dogs are huge. There's bears in my driveway. What is happening? I'm super anxious to get out into public with Chop. But before I go to a public park with him, I want to make sure that I have some at least basic leash skills with him. So we're out here in the driveway and I want to see how well he does, because it's probably going to be easier for him to learn here in my driveway than it is in a public park. So I want to know what I'm working with. Here. Interesting. I see how I said here. He didn't immediately pay attention to me like he was doing just a moment ago. By now, you'll probably understand that when you're outside, things are way harder than when you're inside. Why don't we shape this more? Because right now, I want him to check things out. So I don't want to just be like, pay attention to me, pay attention to me. He's really enjoying the various sights of the neighborhood here and looking at some things in the distance. So what I'm hoping is going to happen is he's going to satisfy his curiosity, and then he's going to glance up at me. And then I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to give him a whole handful of kibble. The advantage to just waiting for him to do it on his own is that it shows him that he really organically made that pleasant reward appear before his eyes. So yes. Good man, there we go. That was perfect. Yes. So let's see if it happens a bit quicker this next time. Yes. Right there. He's like, let's just let this play out for a sec. Yes. I know what you're thinking. He's being too good right now. Zach, come on, couldn't you have got a challenging dog to work with? Admittedly, this is a good start, but remember, we are only in my driveway and there are very minimal real-world distractions around. My objective here is to really get him looking up to me and paying attention to me while we move around, now outside in the driveway as opposed to inside like we talked about. Yes. Here, yes. In this environment, he's really finding his food reinforcing. But for him, this environment isn't exactly challenging. You can hear a neighbor's dog barking in the background. Yes, good. And I just want to make sure that I can easily get him away from a distraction he might encounter in the wild. Yes, sit. I've never been so happy to see a dog sit in my life. Here, yes. Good, and see there, I was able to redirect that forward momentum. I'm liking that. Yes, oh, wow. I loved how he was rubbing against my leg on that one. That was cool. Let me address this, because I know it looks like I'm just constantly shoving treats down his throat here. But keep in mind two things. First, this is his daily meal, and perhaps more importantly, the whole reason we rapid fire treats like this in the beginning of brand new behavior is so that we can communicate in no uncertain terms that what he's doing right there is definitely working for both of us. Don't worry, this isn't something that happens forever. Rather quickly, we would begin rewarding for 3 seconds of good behavior, then 10 seconds, then eventually 10 minutes. But let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. I find too, like with people who are new to teaching dogs, you're really tempted to default to no because you want to let your dog know what not to do. But really, if you can just kind of tip the scales 180, you know, and look at it a little bit differently and try and say yes 80% of the time or even 90% of the time if you can. So let your training live around the word yes, I like that. And don't miss too many opportunities to acknowledge when your dog is just doing great. I mean, there's no harm in letting them know when they're on the wrong track from time to time, as we did with Leave It just moments ago inside. But find those opportunities to let them know when they have done the right thing. Just trying to see what happens if I pick up the pace. Does that get him a little more engaged? I don't know. Yes. Good man. Okay. All right, good. I feel good about that. It's good to know that, at least in this relatively distraction-free environment, he's pretty receptive to learning. But I'm really curious to get a baseline as to how Chop behaves in an average park, where there are a number of dogs, people, kids, and other unanticipated stimuli. And while he gets an A+ for his performance so far today, experience tells me that this next part could be potentially very rocky. He cannot be doing that when he sees dogs. Training can go off the rails with so many different dogs when you take them to a place like this. This is Reality Dog Training. Check out Bark Eats and get 60% off in the description below. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. We'll see you in the next episode.